The first item on the agenda is to approve the minutes from November 21st, 2022. Did everyone get a chance to look at Mary's minutes?
Yes.
I was
So
looking
moved.
over before the meeting. Does anyone have any questions or edits they want to suggest?
It was It was a short meeting. I tried to make them as short as possible, but it ends up always at a half an hour is one side, one page. So sorry if it's too much reading.
No, it was good.
Good
I
job.
appreciate the detail, Mary, because we actually have really good minutes where I can say, hey, can we look back and see what we did? And that did happen this time around where an applicant had, or a recipient had thought something, and Mary was able to go back into the minutes and say, actually, this is what we agreed to. So that was good.
I would actually also like to thank you for the very, very clear, thorough minutes. Yeah, thank you.
Well,
So
thank you.
that being
Thank you.
said, I make a motion to approve the minutes from November, is it 18th? Sorry.
Mhm.
November 22nd, 2022.
All right. Do I have a second? And Michael, did you second?
Yes.
Okay. We'll take any further discussion? All right, I'll take a vote. Megan McGrath-Smith, yes. Michael Falsetti,
Yes.
Nathan Chung,
Sorry, do I need to approve the minutes?
you can abstain.
Abstain, yeah,
Okay.
because I wasn't there, I'm abstaining. Yeah.
Yes. Mary
Yes.
and Alana.
Ilana, yes, yes.
Okay, thank you. All right. The bulk of our meeting is just going to be some quick updates on past projects. And then we're going to jump into updates on eligible projects and then talk about the January public meetings coming up and making sure that we're prepared for those. I'm hoping that it'll be a short meeting because I know that in January they're long because we're hearing presentations from our applicants. So hopefully we'll kind of roll through this pretty quickly. So in terms of updates on past projects, the MIFA Murals piece is effectively the language is there. I feel really good about it. It took some real going back and forth between MIFA and the Wisteria Hearst director to make sure that we were all in accordance with the terms. And Amy has drafted a communication that's going to go to the council. So that should be going to them within the next few days. She sent it to Israel Rivera already. So that's a good thing. So the next step with that is just waiting to hear back on what city council decides, if they're willing to accept the new scope of work or not, and then we'll move forward or not. The other piece that I think actually wasn't initially on the list, but of course it says past projects included but not limited to, is the Lady Liberty piece. Chris Baker had responded and said the granite did actually arrive, the granite tablets, but they're still waiting for the electrical to be completed, which is being paid for out of additional sources, not CPA sources. So the lighting is going to be established hopefully soon, and then the granite tablets will go in. One of my follow-up questions is going to be around timing and weather, because I'm not sure if it's really possible to do that kind of electrical work this time of year. So I'm not sure if that means the granite tablets won't be installed until spring at this point. But it does seem like the electrical work has to happen first, and that's why the granite tablet stones, the tablets haven't been installed yet at Lady Liberty. Michael, do you have anything else about that project that you want to share, or am I saying things that sound about right to you?
No, it sounded all right. Yeah, Chris, in speaking with him, yeah, it's all dependent upon the weather. And if we have to wait, if the weather is such that they can't lay the tablets down correctly, if the ground is frozen or uneven, and they prefer to wait till March or April, then the statue is not going anywhere, and it'll be there for a while. So all in all, I mean, the electrical is somewhat based on the weather to some extent. Sometimes you can work around it, it depends on what Chris feels and how he wants it done, and what the contractor feels and how he wants it done correctly. So again, if we have to wait, unfortunately, if we have to wait an additional couple of months, well, then so be it. The end result and product will be well worth it.
Oh yeah, I'm excited to see the project actually come to fruition. I think it's going to look great. And I'm glad that they were able to find additional sources of funding to match with CPA, because there are things that we just can't fund. We can't fund lighting. So the fact they were able to kind of put together a few funding sources to really do the whole project, I think it's going to look great, right? Like, I can't wait to see Lady Liberty lit up at night.
Yeah, it's going to be a dominant, it's going to, I dare say, visually, it's going to dominate the area. So when you drive by at night, it won't be a dark spot. It'll actually be a well lit spot, and the statue will really come out at you. It'll be very flattering. It'll be very nice.
And that's come up too with Scott's Tower, that so much of the public's concerns about areas, if they're well lit and they're used frequently by people, then those kinds of crimes of convenience don't tend to happen in the same way. And I know that the work that they're starting to do to start to figure out a plan for revitalizing Scott's Tower, a lot of the idea of us purchasing those 14.1 acres that we purchased north of the tower was this idea that, like, if you have easier access to it, if it's possible for there to be more folks there more frequently, if it's more well lit, then kind of the things that are happening, because it feels like a very anonymous area, won't be happening.
Yeah.
I think the same thing is true of Veterans Park.
Absolutely.
Okay. Scott's Tower. Oh, sorry, I jumped. So the Girls Inc. Memorial Condo Building project, the only update there is the contract has been fully executed. Last meeting, we were still waiting and we weren't sure why, because it hadn't been approved by legal. But when we reached back out to Lisa Ball, she just said that for whatever reason, she had missed the push to her email from the electronic sign now system that we use, and that she just had somehow missed it. So she said in the future, just reach out faster to make sure that she's getting those emails, and then there was no reason why it had to be delayed. So it's now fully executed, which is good. Scott's Tower, Amy, do you want to give the update on that? And then Mary can weigh in as well if there's anything that she's holding on to.
Sure. The last thing I have on Scott's Tower, as you remember, there's both the acquisition project, which is acquiring the land of the FY21 project, and then the phase 2 project, which is like preliminary design work. So for the first part, the acquisition, that's pretty much complete, and there's about 404 remaining in their award, which I think he may use. That's the last I remember, but that's really moved along. And then the phase 2 project, I know that Yoni submitted 2 invoices to the vendor, from the vendor GZA, for preliminary design work totaling $19,000. So about $6,000 remains in that contract. And I saw that Yoni said that his intent is to complete this in 3 months.
Wow.
Yeah,
And the only
Mary, do you want to?
that's great. The only other thing I would add is that they did get their land and water grant, matching funds grant. So all the funding they needed for, I guess, phase 1 and for that portion of phase 2 is in place. So that's the only thing to add. Without the CPA grant, you wouldn't get the land and water. So they got it.
Yeah. I think it's an important part that CPA funds in general can be leveraged. Okay.
Yes.
The next one is the JFK Memorial Signage. Amy, did you say that you have heard from Mark Joyce on this, or no?
No, I have not heard any word. The last I heard was quite some time ago that there was a death in the family, and I just haven't heard anything more from Mark Joyce. I can reach out to him again, but it's been several times that I've contacted him. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm feeling some frustration with how long we've been waiting and asking. And I feel like we've been really patient. I don't know. I think I'm going to do some thinking about just how to approach them and who else around them we can, kind of ask for some support around in terms of just what's the holdup? Is it financial? Is it not having the right vendor? Is it you need us to source quotes for you and send you quotes and we create the visual proof, right? Like what's the holdup and can we get the ball rolling?
Right.
Yeah, Michael.
Madam Chairman, just by way of suggestion, if you or Amy were to send them an email and ask them what the holdup is and ask them, is there a Gaelic design sign that they could put up that would make it more palatable perhaps than just an official a rectangular box with saying these are the funds, to make it more Gaelic. If there were a Gaelic design, it would perhaps make them move along a little quicker.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I don't know.
Yeah. So I'll reach out and just do some thinking about how can we get this to move forward. I hate when stuff lingers this long. It's just an agenda item that is on there month after month. Okay, War Memorial signage. I know I saw emails between Chris Baker and Amy Lindau looking at it being completed and installed in the War Memorial lobby. Amy, do we have a picture of it yet? Or are we waiting on that?
Yeah, I did get a picture. It looked good. There was some back and forth, but we worked it out really well where I gave, my suggestions on making it the colors more complementary and it looks good. And he said that it is in the lobby and sent a photo of it.
Okay. Oh, I just saw that email. So I think when you forwarded it to me, for whatever reason, the stuff that's underneath it got truncated. So I don't have access to the picture. But if at some point you could send it back out to the committee, that'd be great, just so folks can see it. Okay. The next piece is the Chestnut Street preservation restriction. So the piece that I've understood is that it's been completed. It was seen by the Historic Commission and approved. Alana, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, sure. We just had our meeting on Monday, and the same crew presented to the Historic Commission the scope of work. We were kind of joking, but not really, when we said, "Oh, we wish all presentations could be the way that these guys have handled it." Not only did they, they've just been, up to speed on everything, but they did this since we last met update kind of thing. And they had all these bullet points. And I was like, oh my God, this is fantastic, because none of us can remember one thing, one day to the next. So that was really helpful. And yeah, we looked at some of the areas that were specifically highlighted in question, including the parge and the incinerator in the back. One component that they are taking on, I guess 2 out of the 3 buildings are handicap accessible, and then the third one would essentially be the one that would have like a side, like a deck almost. They're going to create a ramp to that deck and then a door on the side entrance that will allow for handicap accessible, or at least people with certain kinds of wheelchairs. So we are very excited for that project, and it's getting a lot of attention right now. So that's kind of where things are at with that. Yeah.
I think it's exciting to have a preservation restriction that is done. And also, this is making me think, Mary, I'm sorry, I'm going out of order. But going back up to the idea of the former O'Connell building. So because we have sort of shifted our process on PRs, the Girls Inc. lawyer drafted a PR draft, which meant that we already have a draft in hand, which is awesome. In terms of just moving the process quicker. And so that has now been sent to the Historic Commission chair and also to Assistant Solicitor Kathleen Degnan for them to review and figure out. Legal has to weigh in and say, yes, I feel great about the following things, or here are the things that I need to be edited. And then it will go to the Historic Commission, hopefully within the next month is our hope. Okay. Is there anything else for other projects, Amy, that you want to mention from past projects?
Okay, sure. Jackson Street housing, affordable housing project, the Habitat for Humanity project. We did get, and I sent this to the committee, the appraisal for 113 Jackson Street, which was done. I didn't see any word on the deed writer for that. We have it for 117 Jackson Street. And I'm still waiting on the closeout report from Amy Giroux. So I just emailed her to find out more. That's Jackson Street. Then Mayor Field, Tom Reynolds is the parks person now with the city for that project. That's moving along well. About $17,872 remains in that project budget, and the total award was $210,000. So he's been very active.
Did he? I'm trying to remember a communication. Did Tom Reynolds say that they had a plan for that $17,000? Because I think I'm remembering something, but I can't remember.
I think he does. I don't have that right in front of me, though. Maybe it had to do with the walkway, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Then the fire truck, as you remember, Tom Shea was concerned that, Deputy Shea, that there might and that they might be over on their project budget. The last thing he said to me, it was kind of confusing because one email sort of said, "Oh, can we use that extra $15,000?" Then I checked with Mary and Meg about whether that was actually approved, and the minutes showed that you all had requested, an actual quote, something in writing, if that was needed, But then his last communication, he said he does not believe he's coming in over on the project budget at this time, and he'll let us know if that changes and provide a quote. Then the next item was the stained glass windows with Chris Baker. This is the last thing I have on. And it appears that he was at one point pushing for additional funds for that, though the contract's already been drafted for $80,000 and the specific scope of work. But now he's saying he won't be asking for more money, but that he would like to do different windows. And Megan and I have been in communication on that, and we think we can just sort of alert City Council and create an amendment.
Our plan is to send a communication to the City Council that just says, instead of doing Windows 1 or 2, we're going to be able to do Windows 2 and 4, and just make sure that that's something that they're aware of, and then move forward with creating an amendment.
Meg, if I may.
Mm-hmm.
Just that I'm thinking maybe instead of even specifying which windows, just to say up to 2 windows, just because I'm just trying to cover all bases in case there should be another change down the line.
Sure. And I think in general, we've just learned a lot about how to draft communications to City Council, and also how to create systems so that stuff doesn't continually have to be reapproved by City Council. Like all the new contracts that we've been drafting and the new forms of communication we've been sending to City Council have all, created more space for us to be able to handle things in committee, and also to handle changes if they need to occur, as long as they're reasonable. Michael, and then Mary.
Well, Madam Chair, this is for you and or Amy. Do you know what was the rationale that Chris Baker selected some windows as opposed to another? Is it based on?
We have more money. We have more money than we thought we were going to have, because the state match came in 20,000 higher than they had initially projected. They said, "Oh, we're going to give you this amount of money." Oh, no, actually 20 grand more than that. And that meant that suddenly it didn't make sense to do windows. We can't do 1 and 2 with the amount that we do have, because there's larger windows and smaller windows that are more complicated, more simple. And so what could be covered with the match they got, plus the CPA funding, was Windows 2 and 4.
So
that was the shift.
So it was based on economics, not as the main rationale for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
You just never quite know what match you're going to get sometimes.
Yeah, no, that's fine. More money is more money. good.
Yeah, I'm not going to be mad about it. Mary?
Okay, so my question was not really a question, but in regards to the fire truck, I'm wondering if he might just need some clarification on how to go about getting the money from, the city hall. In other words, sometimes, after they leave here and they know that they're, funded and they go ahead and get the work done, they're not quite sure how to have the money transferred to the right place. So maybe he just needs a little guidance on that. It sounds more like that was his question rather than the business of applying for more.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yes, Amy?
Actually, I've already been processing his invoices, and I don't think that's been a problem, just to let you know.
Okay, good.
He understands, because when it's a city project, usually I can, have them paid directly, except when it's a situation like, for example, the Scott Tower, a very large project where they're getting funding from multiple sources. Then I work with the auditor to transfer funds back into, for example, the conservation account, because it's too difficult to parse it out separately, and they've already paid from a general account and just need the money back for the CPA portion.
Thank you.
Hi.
Madam Chair?
Yes. Yeah, sorry.
No, it's okay. For you and Amy, can either one of you just give us an update on the status of the fire truck? Is it halfway done? Is it just, where is it? I think the last time I recall, the fellow in charge of that said he had problems he may need more money because of rusting or some such thing. Can you give an update on where it is and what the status of it is?
So he had reached out again, and this is why Amy was giving that update, and just said, oh, I think I'm still thinking that I might go over, but even if I do, that's fine, because I know I already have like a promise of $15,000 of extra funding. And our response back was, well, no, at the time, actually, we said that while we want to support your project, we need an actual quote that shows that it would, in fact, cost more and how much more it would cost, and we'd have to bring it back to City Council. So I just think it was making sure that he understood that it's a process. It's not something that we can just decide unilaterally, that, funding decisions ultimately lie with City Council. We make recommendations. But if something exceeds what they've already approved, we have to go back to them and ask for, additional funding. So, or the permission to release additional funding. So it was just making sure that he understood that. But we haven't seen any additional quote. So we've said, yes, absolutely. If you know you need more money, we just need proof. Give us proof that you need more money, and then we'll go from there happily.
For some reason, I don't know why, I thought we awarded him a not to exceed figure, but I'm going on memory, so maybe I'm confused about that.
We had said that we were willing to support up to a certain amount, but that we needed to have proof of that in order to be able to go to the City Council and ask for more funding, and then we never got anything after that. So if he's interested, he just understands now that he has to have that.
Oh, okay. I'll let things work out. Okay.
Michael, are you talking about at the most recent meeting? The most recent time we discussed it with him? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I think that was a few meetings ago, but I could be wrong, Mary. I'm just,
Yeah, we all, I guess, were a little baffled when he first asked. So I went back and looked it up, and we didn't take a vote. And let me see if I can read it to you.
Well, no, that's okay. I mean,
so the answer is, as Megan and Amy said, we did not take a vote. We said we needed something specific. We encouraged him, saying that, it sounded good. We'll go back. We're in favor of this project. But we didn't say specifically, yes, we're going to give you this extra money.
Okay. No, fine. Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to number 4, update on eligible projects. So far, the 3 historic projects that we've talked about before are still on the table. And then there are 4 open space and rec projects that are moving forward in terms of eligibility. So we talked so far about us having 2 different meetings, right? One for historic and one for open space and rec. So we'll see them on different nights. Mary, do you have the dates there? Are they the 2 successive Wednesdays?
Do have the date.
I have them if you want to.
Yeah.
Okay, they're January 11th for the historic and
Okay.
January 18th for the open space and rec.
Okay, thanks. Just gonna write that down one more time. All right, and
So
then in
it's
terms,
January 11th and January 18th. 11 for historic, 18 for open space.
awesome. And then in terms of what those projects are, I'm gonna shut the porch door because I can hear my children coming in. Just give me 1 second. It's gonna get loud in here. Okay. So I'm gonna screen share so that you can see who the projects are currently. Okay, so in terms of historic, we have Wisteria Hearst. The potential request is $95,000 for an engineering study, and then remaining funds for the chimney and wallpaper restoration. The City Hall clerk basement document restoration project for $9,800 for them to pack out and inventory 30+ journals stored in the City Hall basement for the past 50 to 100 years, and to dehumidify, dry clean, deodorize, and rebox them. We have 106 120 High Street, right block, for $180,000 with a goal of restoring the windows, the brickwork, the exterior cladding, the parapet flashing, etc. That's the only private owner of these 3. And then we had another project that I wanted to make sure you're aware of, which is that the First Congregational Church, which had recently been rezoned for business highway after it was purchased by Dennis Bullock, with the idea that it would be turned into an Indian motorcycle museum and cafe and dealership, was initially, they had sent us an application asking for up to $250,000 to do upgrades and restoration, but then was put on the market. So this became a project that we didn't move forward from, with, because it's actively on the market, and that becomes an unstable project to then work with, because it really needs to be someone who is willing to accept a preservation restriction. And if it's already on the market without it, that becomes a real barrier to any CPA funding in terms of it moving forward. Amy, have you had any?
Yeah, Megan, can I just ask a question?
Mhm.
Do we have a sense of like the time frame when it was discovered that this went to spam, and when the decision was made for him to put when it went back on the market? Do we have any sense that they may or may not be related? Does that make sense?
No, I don't know that.
Okay.
Yeah. So my plan was to reach out to Dennis Bullock to have a conversation, but I haven't been able to do that yet. But it hasn't moved forward so far because of those 2 related issues. And then the last piece that I want to go over is the open space and rec. So we have the YMCA playground. This is actually the 3rd time that they're submitting this application to us for the expansion of their outdoor recreation space. And this is for almost $300,000. And then the Jones Point Park to replace the old play equipment that was installed there in 1999 for $200,000. One of the pieces there around eligibility was that they initially talked about pedestrian vehicle access to being upgraded. And I think Amy was still pursuing some understanding of what does vehicle access mean, and is that really eligible? Amy, did you get an answer on that from Stuart Sagan?
I don't have that. I did take careful notes on all that, but I just didn't know that you wanted that, and don't have that. But I'm just looking to see what I actually, if you could scroll to the right, I don't know if there's something that I wrote in here about it. Okay, I guess not.
It just says that you
I
had
would have to go back and review my emails, but I know that we did get clarity on what would be allowable and what not. So I think that it's okay, if I remember correctly, because the walkway is within the playground. Let's see.
Okay.
An access road may not, though. I'm not sure.
I actually think that park, once you cross the fence line, there isn't actually a path.
No, there's no path.
It's just grass. It's just grass.
It's not a designed space. I mean, there's a playground there, and there's a tennis court, and there's a big field, and there's various things it's being used for, but it's not it's no holistic design for that area. Yeah, sorry.
The one thing I can tell you, though, is that I definitely spoke, research for that one and the other one that I think was further down with Yoni and got clarity on it. And the applicants are clear on what they can and can't apply for in their actual application. So just to reassure you, so the actual application will probably be a little different from the eligibility based on that.
Okay. All right, that sounds good. And then Anniversary Hill Park Phase 2. So this is $100,000 of an ask for them to build out preliminary site concepts to the budget, apply for grants for full landscape design, engineering and construction work. And this would start doing some of that basic work around access roads and adding parking and ADA accessibility, trail work, landscaping, picnic areas, and new structures. So the goal is to do the site work that would the site concepts that would allow for that work to start moving forward.
Yeah, and in terms of that, if you look at under where I have the notes where I put city legal input, although it's really what I found, that Yoni understands that the access road, because it's for maintenance, would probably not be allowable because maintenance in general is not allowable for CPA funds. So that he thinks that would be left out of the actual application.
And then the fourth one is to do a phase 2 of the Glautak Woods trail improvements. So they want to build on the FY22 CPA project by adding 3 additional trail reroutes, construction of a timber staircase, discontinuing points of access that are continuing to bring in illegal ATV trespassers, and there are some steep grades difficult for walkers. And it said the last Greenagers invoice from FY22 likely is to come under budget. If so, the request will be reduced. That's $46,000. Okay. In terms of us moving to preparing for the January meetings, right? So we'll expect to see 3 historic on January 11th, maybe 4, and 4 January 18th for open space and rec. Amy, have the applicants been notified of those meeting times and dates?
No, they have not.
Okay. So my thinking is that in terms of preparing for the January public meetings, I know there's several things that have to happen. One of which is making sure that we've posted it in the papers. And also just our communication to applicants to make sure they know what's expected. In the past, I think we've said, make sure you have a slide deck prepared to give us a sense of the scope of work. Be prepared to tell us if there's a way to do your project, but with less funding, right? So we've asked that a number of times, like if this project could be phased out, is there a way to phase it so that we're only paying for one phase right now? Or is there an option to pay 80% of this? And then if that's the case, what would shift in the scope of work? I know that we've done that in the past. And how long have we normally said applicants have for presentations? 5 minutes, 7 minutes, 10 minutes? I don't remember what we did last year.
Yeah, Madam Chairman, we set I think we set limits of like 10 minutes, but nobody goes by it. I guess for the enthusiasm of your project, you get overwhelmed and you don't keep quiet. So we just politely listen. So I don't know, I suppose 20 minutes.
Put up a timer, Mike.
Yeah, right. Or, a hook and hook them off. But
It's
I
hard
don't know.
because they want to explain their project. This is their moment in the sun to convince you, I get it. Yeah, I think let's, tell them, hopefully we can keep them to 10 minutes of presenting so there's time for questions. And we have to do our due diligence in these meetings to ask really good questions, right? And we will have the access to the full applications. When will we have those, Amy?
So I don't know, by the way, did you also show the fourth project down there? Because what I'm not seeing what's below Anniversary Hill Park. Okay, maybe you already showed that. Okay. Yeah, I just yeah, so the historic ones are due I think it's December 16th. And the open space is due December 31st. So that's when the actual applications will be submitted. So the only thing is, yeah, you won't have that much time to actually look at the applications before the meeting, but or maybe you will. And I did just want to mention that, as I told you in my email, Meg, I'll do my, I should be able to initiate that meeting on January 11th, but I may not be able to be there for the whole meeting because of packing and moving.
Yes, yeah, I did see that.
But if you wanted me to be there, might be good to change that meeting to the 25th.
I think it'll be hard to do that only because I'm trying to remember why, but I know that we went back and forth on a number of dates and it was hard to find two that we all were available for.
I'm not available on the 25th, but it's a matter of deciding, my input might not be as important as Amy's. I mean, I don't know. Although, I'd want to be there for it. I'd want to be there for it. So,
yeah. No, I think we have to move forward with the dates that we've set, Amy, although I understand
Okay.
that,
I just wanted to
moving
make
is
you
a thing.
all aware. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so here are a few things I wanted to mention. So before we have those meetings, Amy will post it in the papers. We have to give 2 weeks of notice. And then, Amy, if you could just send some communication to applicants so they know what to expect. And then as soon as we have applications, Amy, is there a place in the Google Drive that you'll put those so the committee has access to it?
Yeah, I mean, actually, there's already an application right at if you could just click on the historic tab at the bottom of what you have open.
Mm-hmm.
There's already an application for the city hall basement. Yep. So that it'll just be added right here, so you'll be able to see that. And I can see there's even a column for presentation and so forth.
That's great. Okay, so here's my my gentle ask to the committee is to read over the applications prior to the public meeting so that you've come prepared, you can ask questions, you are informed about the projects and you're ready to go. When we are then scoring them, I just want to remind us of the process. So I'll make this larger. Okay. So the CBC scoring criteria are still stable from last year. The categories are goals alignment, benefit to the city, public support, supporting documentation, project feasibility, sources of funding, and then restrictions and contractual processes. And everyone will use this rubric. I'll drop it in the chat for folks who want to look at it more deeply and make sure they have their own copy of it. this is the way that we will score them. So between you reading the application and then listening to the public presentations, after public presentations, you will get a link that looks like this from Amy, and it will ask you to score it. This is from last year. It will ask you to put in your email, and then for each project, it will ask you to go ahead and say how you feel about that project, right? And in terms of you using the scoring criteria. So every single project will be scored on each of the categories.
During the meeting?
No.
Oh,
So
okay.
between the public meetings ending and then our meeting in February where we begin to discuss and vote, everyone has to go in here and has to score it. Because the first thing that we're going to do when we meet in February is we're going to pull up a doc that looks like this. And it's going to say where every single project stands in terms of its score. And then it's an easy way for us to say, okay, we can see that this project is the highest scoring. We'll talk about the pros and cons. How did we all score this project? Are we willing to vote to fund this project, or rather to recommend funding to City Council? And this is the process that we've used in the past in order to kind of expedite the process. The goal is to try to move through voting on the projects in a timely way so that we can then move forward with contract development, because all of that takes time, right? Because we have to, in February, vote on projects. Usually in April, we're also still sometimes voting on projects and then sending communication to City Council to vote. My perspective from how we've done it in the past to this time is that we should try to batch all of them together in one shot rather than doing them in two, which we did last year. And I think that for a few reasons. One, I think there's this piece that I'm noticing by the City Council that they're still understanding who we are and our processes. And when we go ahead and give them half the projects, they're like, yeah, but which ones more are coming, right? Is more coming? Are we done? Are we not done, right? There's this confusion and it sort of unsettles them versus being able to say, here are all the projects that we're recommending or bashing them to you once. I think it's going to go better.
Yeah.
And so I think what I'd like us to do is be really efficient with voting in February so that we can move forward with one batch. If we don't finish in February, fine. We'll have another meeting in February, or we'll have another meeting in April, and then we'll batch to the City Council. But I don't think we should send in a staggered way like we have in the past. Any question?
Yeah. So when I do send a sign up to the applicants for the meetings, I'd like to also send them that scoring rubric because I think that will help them, know how to present. Also, I'm assuming this will also be a Zoom meeting. Is that right? Both of the meetings will be via Zoom?
Yep.
Okay. I think that's all. Yeah.
Okay, any questions about the scoring process? So I know we have some new members who haven't necessarily done this process before, so totally fine to ask questions. Mary?
I haven't done this, but I have done RFRs for work, which is slightly more laborious than this, I think.
What's an RFR?
A request for reprocurement.
Ooh. Mary, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I have gone to the that place where we have the grid, and I am a person that likes to have everything printed out so that I can read it in front of me, and I find that very difficult to do. I am spending a lot of time manipulating the whole thing, redoing it, copy paste, and I mean, I don't know, I'm coming up with stuff like this. It's not as tidy as last year. I don't understand why last year's looked so nice and I was able to print it out for the record. So I don't know, is this the final copy? The final way it's going to look?
Mary, do you just want it on one page so it prints on an 8.5 by 11? Because the easy way to reformat it is just make the columns narrower.
Yeah, but I'm not allowed to. We aren't allowed to.
But I'm saying like we could on our end.
Oh.
Like, is that what you want? Is you're just trying to figure out a way to print it on one page? Yeah.
Right.
Good idea.
Yeah, that's doable. Any
Thank you
other
so much.
concerns, questions, thoughts? Okay. My last question is around gaining public information. So last year we also put out a survey. We linked it into the chat during the public presentations, and then we also made it available. Amy, remind me if I'm correct, but was it through email or was it on our website? I know there was
Sorry,
different.
can you repeat the question?
Last year we did a survey. We
Mhm.
asked people which projects they were most in support of.
Mhm.
And I don't know if we want to do that again this year. But that was one question. We did do that last year because technically it's a public meeting, and so you're supposed to garner
Mhm.
public input. So last year we had a survey.
So what is your question?
Last year, I know we put it in the chat, but we also shared it in other ways too, right? Was it on email or was it our
I
website?
think that we put it on the Holyoke City, we might have put it on the City of Holyoke website.
Mhm.
I know we have had a survey on the City of Holyoke website, but I don't remember if it was specific to the presentations. It might have been, I think it did, but it also asked more other general questions, like what would you like to see more of, and that kind of more open-ended.
So before the public meeting, if you can dig out last year's survey and send it to me, it's probably going to look the same. But I just want to make sure that I have my eyes on it before we put it back out there.
Okay, so the public survey.
Mm-hmm. And we probably need to have some communication with the city around putting it on their webpage once we start the public meetings. Okay. Is there anything else I'm not thinking about? Because the next time we meet, in fact, the next 2 times we meet, we won't have any time to talk, right? Like we're gonna open Zoom, people will be there, and we will begin presentations. We won't actually talk again as a committee until February. So everything that happens in terms of hearing public presentations and the scoring project process will happen between now and when we meet next. We won't talk in between. Yeah, Mary?
Is there a way of alerting all of our members that they must do their homework between now and then and just get everybody excited about it? I'm asking a question. I don't have a suggestion.
Yeah, I'm going to reach out to anyone who wasn't here tonight to make sure that they have this information, because otherwise they're going to come in completely unprepared. Yeah, totally. Yep, Amy.
I'm trying to remember if the posts, and I know I can look this up later, but I don't know if anybody happens to remember it, whether we need to post about the meeting for the public 4 weeks in advance and again 2 weeks in advance, or is it 2 weeks and 1 week? That's what I don't know, because we're very close to the wire if it is 4 weeks, because 1, 2, 3.
In the past, we've only done it 2 weeks.
Because so 2 weeks and then 1 week beforehand. Okay, then we're good.
Yeah. Okay. If there is anything else under other?
I guess Daniel's not coming in. Huh?
I have financial information from Daniel that I was going to do under other. I just didn't know if anyone else had anything else. Okay. So I talked to Daniel off the financial consultant on the phone. And he apologizes for not being here. He recently contracted a case of shingles. He's not feeling good. So we talked on the phone rather than him having to come into a visual setting. So the piece to sort of hold on to in terms of our finances this year is that we have $783,000 that we're projecting in collections for this year. And we have $104,000 in rollover that is not encumbered to the housing account. The 73, right, we still have to take admin out from, and also 10%, because we don't have any housing applicants this year. And so as a result, that will get rolled over to housing. So I'll get you a final number before we start any deliberations in February. But effectively, we're looking at an amount that will be 783 minus admin and housing, 10% plus the 104. And I'll email that out as well, just so folks have a sense of it before we go into the public meetings. We know it's going to be at least $800,000, but it might be a little bit more. Okay. That's all I have. And I'm happy to end a meeting 55 minutes in. That feels good. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
A second.
Bye, everybody. See you in January.
Merry Christmas.
Yes,
Merry
happy
Christmas,
holidays.
everyone.
Happy
Bye-bye.
Hanukkah.
Happy New Year.
Yes, happy Hanukkah.
Happy solstice.